In my heart, I genuinely believe that anybody can cook. Don't believe me? Try out these recipes and see how your life changes. I would put any of these 3 pastas against any Italian restaurant, and they can all be cooked in the time it takes to actually boil the spaghetti. That's about 8 minutes of cooking time. That can't be beat. Let's start with a classic Roman dish, the carbonara, a favorite of mine, but most importantly, a favorite of my wife's.
This is not a traditional carbonara recipe, but that's by design. Carbonara would traditionally be made with guanciale, a cured pork jowl that's lacking from any of my local grocery stores. Pretty sure it's lacking from yours too. Pancetta is a good replacement, but I actually prefer the flavor of bacon. Using pancetta in this always tastes a little hollow to me, and bacon has a more savory flavor that I like. Cynics might scoff, but I like that bacon's available to everyone. We also need black pepper and cheese. Using all pecorino is classic as well, but I like the combination of pecorino and parm. The combo is incredibly tasty, salty, and nutty from the pecorino. Measure out 24 grams of cheese in total for now, but we'll add about 6 to 10 grams more near the end. This is going to be the main flavoring and thickening agent in the sauce, so it's an adjustable ingredient. Carbonara can be scary for some people because the sauce is made from mostly egg. The cool thing though is that the heat from the pasta coming fresh out of the boiling water is enough to cook the eggs without curdling them. They'll cook to form a deliciously creamy sauce. I'll show you a tip to temper the eggs slightly so you can be sure they're cooked as well. I used to use 1 whole egg and 3 to 4 yolks for my carbonara, but not in this economy. With the price of eggs today, no way. I switched to 3 whole eggs and 1 yolk. It's still rich and creamy, but it doesn't make my wallet cry. Add your cheese into the mixed eggs and crack in 20 turns of pepper. We can adjust this later as well, but we want it to be nice and peppery. We need a bowl for the final mixing, so have that ready to go. We're gonna mix this off the heat, so I'd like a stainless steel bowl for this. Drop in half a pound of spaghetti into a pot of salted boiling water and set a timer for the time on the box. Set a large pan over medium-high heat and add 3 bacon strips. This is pretty much the only cooking you need to do for the recipe. If you add the bacon before it's hot, the fat is going to render as the heat goes up. The time the pasta cooks is pretty much the amount of time that we need for the bacon, so once it's crunchy, set it aside and grab a few tablespoons of the rendered fat. The best way to test your pasta if it's done is just to eat it. It should be a hair over al dente, not overcooked, but a softer noodle is nice. Drain your pasta, but save about half a cup of the pasta water. Add a splash of that hot water into the egg mix to quickly temper them. This measure helps keep any curdling from happening, but ensures that the eggs are going to be cooked at the end. Dump your hot noodles into a bowl and pour on the egg mix. Grab a pair of tongs and get to mixing. The dousing of the hot noodles and eggs is what creates the sauce here. As you mix, you'll see that the egg and cheese begin to thicken the sauce. You don't want a ton of liquid left in the bowl, so grate on more cheese as needed. Continue mixing and adding cheese until the sauce is thick, glossy, and completely coats the noodle. Season this with a little salt. Honestly, not too much. We've already got cheese and bacon in there. Add more pepper and just a splash of that bacon fat we saved earlier. This is a nice thing for texture, makes it beautiful and silky. Crumble in the large bacon pieces and you are good to plate. You can see why I adore this dish. Most of the actual cooking takes place away from the stove and it's just mixing. It's a perfect lesson in cooking based on feel versus a step-by-step recipe. It requires tasting and mixing as you go, which means you gotta use your gut to adjust textures in real time. Once you flex that muscle, you're gonna beam with pride like every Italian nonna who's ever made carbonara. These are the sort of recipes I wish I grew up with, ones that are ridiculously simple to make, but come out really, really delicious. These recipes are about as accessible as it gets, especially this next one. My goal was to make a red sauce that's dead simple to make and doesn't require any forethought or shopping trips. This pasta hits that craving and then some. Drop half a pound of spaghetti into boiling salted water and set your timer to the lowest amount that the box says. Turn a skillet onto medium heat and add 3 tablespoons of olive oil. That sounds like a lot, but the sauce has 5 ingredients, so the oil is actually a flavor and cooking ingredient here. While the pan is still cold, grate in 2 garlic cloves and add 1.5 tablespoons of tomato paste. Cook that over medium heat to deepen the flavor and color of the tomato paste. Add a 1/4 teaspoon of chili flake, let that cook along with a pinch of sugar. That is it. This seems almost too simple to be tasty, but in my opinion, this encapsulates just how simple food can blow you away. It kind of captures the spirit of Italian cooking in a way. As the pasta nears completion, add about 1/4 cup of pasta water to the pan. Whisk that in and watch the sauce form. This is going to thicken and emulsify from the starch in the pasta water. If it seems like you can still see the oil, that's okay. As we add the pasta, it's going to get starchier and it's going to cling to it beautifully. Drain your pasta and save a little bit more pasta water just in case we need a little bit of extra moisture for the sauce. Add your pasta and mix it together. As you mix, the sauce is going to cling directly to the pasta and you're going to have a beautiful orange color here. Add a knob of grated Parmesan to the sauce to complete the dish. It's garlicky, it's spicy, and in the nicest way possible, it almost tastes like grown-up SpaghettiOs. Serve this with a little extra cheese on top, some fresh olive oil is nice, and a few cracks of black pepper. Can you believe that this beautiful pasta took less than 10 minutes to make and it tastes as good as it does? The final dish is simple, bright, and exciting. It's pesto. If you want to go classic, you can use a mortar and pestle, or if you want to go a little bit more modern, you can use a food processor to combine the ingredients. Start by dropping in your same half pound of spaghetti into boiling salted water. Rinse around 2 ounces of destemmed basil in cold water. Anywhere between 1.5 and 2 ounces of basil is good for this, but I like the extra punch of more basil. To the mortar and pestle, add 1 clove of garlic and a pinch of salt. Blend that and mash that together, and add 1 tablespoon of some sort of nut. Since I made that paneer passata a few months ago, I've had a bunch of cashews around, so I've been using that. Pine nuts would be traditional here, but I mean, it's me, so tradition left a while ago. Add a handful of your basil and get to crushing. Be ready for a solid workout here. It takes some time to get the basil ground into a paste. Add a pinch of salt for a little roughage if you need it. Continue working through your basil until it's all been blended. I don't use my food processor for this simply because I don't have a small one. The basil gets under the blade and it never really gets mixed, and that's kind of unfortunate. Once the basil has been completely crushed, add a little knob of both pecorino and Parmesan cheese. Use a little more if you want it to be cheesier, but to me the beauty of pesto lies in exciting brightness, so don't go nuts on cheese here. Mix in a few tablespoons of olive oil until you have something resembling a thin paste here. At this point, your pasta should be cooked. Save a little pasta water like we did before, and then add your pasta to the bowl. Top that with your pesto and give a ton of mixing. Because we're going by feel here, the sauce may need a little bit more oil or pasta water to completely coat it. So be the judge of it and remember that you're a pro of feeling things out now. I find it usually needs a little bit more pasta water and at least another tablespoon of oil or so, as the mixture absorbs pretty quick into the pasta. That's it though, it's ready to be devoured. A good pesto in my eyes can be transformative in its simplicity. These recipes are all a beautiful reminder that delicious meals don't always have to sacrifice a ton of time or money. And I hope that you have as much fun making them as I did. If you love a good pasta and learned something today, maybe throw a like on the video and subscribe. If you're looking for your next meal to be a little bit fancier, look no further than this coq au vin recipe. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you being here, and thank you so much to all of the amazing people supporting me on Patreon. Cheers.